In the world of Burnout Paradise, running at 60 frames per second means everything. Having smooth 60Hz feedback is a core tenet of its design, even going back to the original PS3 and Xbox 360 versions from 2008. It makes a world of difference to timing a successful takedown on a rival car, for threading the needle between downtown traffic. It is Burnout, in other words. And I'm glad to say that 60fps is at least the target on this new Switch Remastered 2. As handled by Stellar Entertainment, Switch gets something of a mixture in visual settings to achieve this. Graphics quality is between the last and current gen standard, but overall closest to the PS4 and Xbox One release. So how exactly does Switch differ from these, and do those changes result in the truly locked performance level we're after, for both docked play and while on the go? Let's find out. First up, let's talk on the package itself. You get everything. All 8 DLC packs for Burnout Paradise are included in the Switch Remaster, miraculously weighing in at 4GB overall. Support for up to 8 players online is included too, though sadly in my experience the servers haven't yet been busy enough to test for this analysis. Still, the single player experience is in focus, and you get all online challenges there too. The star of the show remains Paradise City itself though, from the busy sprawl of downtown with its billboard ramps and monuments to the Big Surf Island's wilder course layouts. As far as making specific use of Switch features, it boils down to solid HD rumble support for the Joy-Cons, plus an ability to navigate the map with a pinch and pull system while on the go. The most striking first impression about the Switch port is its push for 60fps. Now, we'd fully expect this given PS3 and 360 versions managed it without a hitch 12 years ago. But then the goalposts have moved somewhat with the remastered edition. Compared to the vanilla game, the PC, PS4 and Xbox One remasters get a lot of great visual extras. High-res textures, updated ambient occlusion, higher grade shadow maps, a more abundant particle effects, fuller smoke effects and more. Some of these translate to Switch, others are toned down. Of course, we also had a push to 1920x1080 on base PS4 and Xbox One, over the native 720p on the last gen versions, while X and Pro run at 4K with a pass of 4x EQAA. The turnout for Switch then is a little different. In resolution and settings there are changes, especially if we put it side by side with the base PS4 as an example. First up, the big one is resolution. While docked, Switch runs at a native 1600x900 as the overall output, though with some variations in quality across the image. Some areas involving effects or heavy motion appear to resolve with more obvious pixelation, while other parts are a straight 900p. It's unusual. As a result, a comparison against PS4 with its native 1080p isn't quite so favourable, and it shows a lot more scaling artifacts entering the picture. No question, Switch has more visual noise all round. Any element with fine subpixel detailing like fences or dangling power lines overhead tends to break up visibly at range, which isn't great when blown up to a big TV. The anti-aliasing method used on Switch isn't quite up to the task of minimising it. Still, at usual racing pace, the game looks as great as ever, especially with that touch of motion blur to the screen's edges helping it along. Just don't expect a perfectly clean image at all times on a TV. You're far better off with other versions for that. The good news next is portable play runs at 1280x720 as the overall resolution to match the display. Honestly, this was my first impression of the Switch conversion, and while yes, there's still visible jagged edges with similar issues in pixelation on moving elements as docked, it is a clearer picture thanks to less scaling overall. Really, it feels much better suited. Likewise, the frame rate, which I'll cover later on, is better optimised for the system running at this low resolution on portable clock speeds. I do think this is the biggest revelation overall. Burnout Paradise has a uniquely pick up and play style that fits the rhythm of portable use. In this sense, playing docked can be seen as more of an extra to the portable experience. So, how was this achieved? To get this working on Switch's Tegra X1 chipset involved a lot of major optimizations. Compression is a big factor. Adapting to the GPU and CPU bandwidth on Switch was a challenge to stream in textures, terrain, effects, all while keeping the soundtrack running in the background. Setting this up involved changes to its decompression algorithm. The result? A game with practically no visible pop-in, nor any streaming hitches in my experience. A drive through that busy downtown segment isn't 100% perfect in frame rate, but asset streaming isn't an issue in and of itself. Stellar Entertainment also uses Nvidia's shader core to optimize for the game's shader work, but the overall return visually is surprisingly close to PS4, with exceptions. Back to the comparisons, there are differences. On the positive side first, we get very similar geometry and vehicle draw distances to PS4 all round. It's practically identical as I've mentioned, with minimal pop in either side. Even those huge bursts of impact particle effects are close in quality, plus debris during crashes. It's remarkable how much of the world on Switch is in the same league at a functional level to the PS4 remaster here. The one discrepancy though is texture work. With a lesser 3.5GB of usable RAM on Switch, something clearly had to give at some points. In this case, the junkyard right at the start of the game features visibly lower res textures on the ground and along the wall sides. It's beyond what the 360 and PS3 versions could do, but falls short of the PS4 standard, though the hitting quality is well hidden in motion. Next, there are the effects. Alpha transparencies for smoke, for example, are pared back compared to PS4, notably during stunts while drifting corners or pulling off donuts. Shadow quality is also running on a lower preset for Switch, softer, less defined overall, but the turnout is still pretty respectable. In fact, the world shadow draw distance is the same as PS4, using this flyby as an example. I've fixed the time of day to midday on both sides for accuracy. Switch features a drop-off, but the fade-in cascade for shadows is still at the same exact range. The only other nitpick is ambient occlusion. It's effective on PS4 for bedding objects into the scene, but it's less effective or potentially absent on Switch. It leaves the world looking a bit lighter, but it's likely a justified trade for improved performance. Which brings us swiftly onto the frame rate. All the adaptations made for Switch's hardware here have allowed for a 60fps experience for a vast majority of play. You see that 60fps line? That's where it stays for just about every segment of the map. Whether you're going for a takedown or revving up for a race with multiple cars on screen, it's well tuned for the system in general. Docked play and portable play bear this out in equal measure, but it's fair to say there are big exceptions. Notably, I've seen drops into the 50 to 60fps range at times, while travelling the busy downtown roads while in docked play. First Street and likewise Manners Avenue run for long stretches with the complex monorail system overhead. Compounded by traffic, you can get moments like this, drops to 55fps and just under, that can be felt at high speeds. It's not ideal, but it's worth stressing the bulk of play runs perfectly. It's just select spots that can flare up, a situation that sees Burnout Paradise near enough to a full 60 most of the time. For now, it's a shame Switch fundamentally doesn't quite deliver the absolutely flawless 60fps we have on PS4 and Xbox One, or even PS3 and 360 back in the day. The same goes for portable play. Performance is rock solid most of the time, though apt to drop. Busy streets are the culprits again, though in general I've noticed drops are fewer and less dramatic than docked play. It's strongly geared for 60fps elsewhere though, and again that's where most of play resides, big cities or otherwise. Burnout Paradise on Switch benefits from the updates added to the remaster on the other systems. The improved effects are a plus, as well as the push to 900p while docked, but it's the portable play that makes it stand out most. On that smaller 6-inch 720p display, the layout of Paradise City comes alive with no scaling, and the game flies by at 60fps more consistently too in my testing. Does Switch deliver the perfect Burnout experience at a full 60Hz? Not quite, but it's so close it does still justify a recommendation. The frame rate is really the only point you can challenge, but those drops aren't quite enough to distract from the quality of the game at its core, which even after all these years holds up beautifully. That's about all I have for this quick look today though. If you did enjoy this breakdown of Burnout Paradise and want to see more Switch coverage, do give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And of course hit that bell as well to get notifications as any new video lands. For a high quality version of this video, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch with me or the team directly, just use Twitter. But from me for now, thanks for watching.